Clicking sound.
Clicking sound.
Yeah, they're just
Adjusting that.
I think they'll be done now.
So what you want to capture on TV?
No. But just wait to test the voice our shop.
Yeah, we are out and test. Yeah.
Is it fine?
Yeah. Go where I to open.
Open. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Right.
Is it fine? Is it not tricky?
Okay, sure. No, it was a very easy.
Okay. That's the packet. Ushap mungan. Ushap. So you'll alert us.
Already,
We know what that means.
yeah, Baba can go ahead from another already. Yeah, but you can start.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for coming through. Again, my name is Khumbudzo Ntshavheni from the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. Thank you for coming through indeed. We would also like to welcome viewers and listeners who are joining us from the length and breadth of our country, as well as our colleagues from the media fraternity who are also joining us on various online platforms. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as indicated in the notice of this meeting, we are meeting here at the invitation of our Honorable Minister, the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies, Honorable Ntshavheni, to brief us on what we are doing as a department following the decision of the Constitutional Court on the broadcast digital migration program. Now, as always, Minister is joined here by the project leader of the broadcast digital, the project leader of the BDM, Mr. Tebo Shope, who is as well the CEO of Centec. Minister, if Minister is ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to everybody. And we are also joined by the acting DDG for policy in the department, Ndade Mashile. He's been driving our broadcasting policy in the department. On the 24th of June 2022, I updated the nation on the broadcast digital migration and on an analog switch off. At that time of that media briefing, we were awaiting the Constitutional Court ruling on the matter between the Minister and ETV and others. On the 28th of June 2022, the Constitutional Court handed down a judgment on the matter between ETV and the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies. The Constitutional Court set aside the Gauteng High Court ruling of switch off analog by the 30th of June 2022. The Constitutional Court clarified that it is the Minister's power to determine the analog switch-off date as part of exercising her executive authority, and that is in para 33 of the judgment. This power is located within the Minister's original constitutional policy-making powers, which is Section 85, subsection 2C of the Constitution. This power was exercised in order to implement the BDM project. The Concord held that there are constraints that the Minister must consider when exercising her authority. For the Minister to set the analog switch-off date, she must notify the industry and affected parties and take into account their representations. That's what the Constitutional Court held. The Concord also held that the Minister must notify members of the public about the planned analog switch off and inform them about a need to register for set-top boxes with a sense of agency, that is para 68 of the ruling, which date may legitimately take into account the opportunities already afforded to qualifying indigent persons to register. The Concord deemed that it cannot prescribe the procedure that the minister must follow before determining the analog switch-off date, nor the period for informing the public about the analog switch-off date and the need to register. The Concord held that analog switch-off is an urgent national priority, and therefore, once adequate notice is given to the public to make informed decisions on whether to register for a set-top box, digital migration should proceed without further delay. That's para 103 of the ruling. As previously communicated, the SABC analog transmission has been switched off in the 5 provinces of Free State, Northern Cape, Northwest, Mpumalanga and Limpopo. This enabled Centec to complete the restaking of spectrum bands for completion of digital migration in the said 5 provinces. Therefore, ICASA is continuing with the release of the auctioned high-demand spectrum in these 5 provinces in accordance with ICASA's plans. The release of the spectrum in the 5 migrated provinces will enable telecommunication network operators to decongest the networks with the deployment of 4G and 5G networks. However, until such time that the ASO is achieved, or the analog switch-off is achieved, in the provinces of Gauteng, Western Cape, KZN and Eastern Cape, digital migration cannot be completed and the auction spectrum cannot be released for the decongestion of the deployment of 4G and 5G networks in the 4 provinces. The Constitutional Court has accepted that subsidized set-top boxes can only be provided to those who apply and qualify for such assistance. The calls for applications for government-subsidized set-top boxes commenced in October 2015, and I previously set a provisional deadline of 31 October 2021. And that 31 October 2021 deadline was provisional in a sense that qualifying households could still apply for set-top boxes after the analog has been switched off. Against the end of October 2021 registrations, all provinces have been completed except the province of KwaZulu-Natal and Eastern Cape that were affected by the floods. As of the 30th of June 2022, a total of 94,193 beneficiary households remain unconnected in the 2 provinces, albeit the connections are continuing at a slow pace. And this is an improvement from the number of 109 that we reported on the 24th of June to the members of the public and to the media. We have also commenced with installations for households that registered by the end of March 2022 in the 5 provinces that have completed installations of October 2021 registration, except for the Western Cape, Northwest are yet to commence. And it's not 5 provinces, it's 5 provinces and the 2 make then 7 provinces. But we should be commencing with Northwest and Western Cape installations of the people who registered by 31st of March 2022 next week. To date, we have installed set-top boxes amounting to 56,354 households that have registered by the end of March 2022, with Free State and Northern Cape already in mop-up stages because the numbers that have registered in the Free State and Northern Cape are very low, and therefore we've completed the installations for those numbers. We are finalizing the mopping up to make sure nobody is left behind. We will commence connecting by the end of June registrations as and when we complete end of March targets in various provinces, which means that next week we'll commence in the Free State and Northern Cape to then install those who have applied by end of June. The total number of households that registered between the 1st of November 2021 and 31st March 2022 was 260,268 that have registered between that period. Considering the 5 months period between November and March, this translates to an average of 52,000 registrations per month over that period. And the total number of registered households between the 1st of April 2022 and 30 June 2022 is 49,000 385, and this translates to an average of 16,461 registrations per month. Therefore, this is representing a decline in set-top box applications and registrations. And what are the next steps that we're going to take? Tomorrow, I will publish through a government gazette a public notice of the 30th of September 2022 as the closing date for applications and registrations for government set-top boxes for qualifying indigent households. The call for applications for government set-top boxes commenced in October 2015 as already indicated, and then I've previously set a deadline of 31st October or a soft deadline of 31st October 2021, though households could still apply. We need to clarify the following: that the 31st October 2021 deadline was provisional or soft deadline, as qualifying households could still apply for set-top boxes after the switch off. However, the 30th of September 2022 is the final deadline, and no applications will be considered after this date. And noting the decline in set-top box applications and registrations in recent months, and comparing the end of October, end of March, and end of June registration, we deem that this period is sufficient for the last registrations, and will continuously evaluate this period as the registrations come, and will update the nation. Through the notice that I'm publishing tomorrow in a government gazette, I'm informing members of the public and non-indigent households who are still watching analog televisions of my intention to switch off analog and urge them to purchase compliant digital television sets from retail market. And the compliant digital TV sets are identifiable through the Go Digital logo. At least today I'm wearing the sporty and the t-shirt that carries the logo. And the minister will evaluate, amongst other, the total number of applications of new registrations against the progress with installations, and commence consultations with affected parties on a new analog switch-off date when the progress of registration is proceeding. With that, I would like to thank yourselves for coming through, and this is the end of the media statements. We are willing to take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honourable Minister. Indeed, it's a comprehensive statement and very clear. We are now opening the session, ladies and gentlemen, to questions. We will firstly check with colleagues that are in here in the House. Let's take the first round of 5 questions. Let's just take the first round of 5 questions if we have those 5 questions. But I will remember, colleagues, that this is now the 5th media briefing session that the Minister has held on this project, and she has also spoken on a number of platforms, indeed taking the nation into confidence in terms of this project. Now, by show of hands, can I see the colleagues who would like to ask questions from the House? We'll take 5 questions. We will take 5 questions. If there are colleagues who would like to ask, by show of hands, can they raise their hands and then indicate their names and the media house they are representing, and then put the question to the Minister as succinctly and as briefly as you possibly can. Okay, that will be one. Or only one question from the House. We'll also check questions that are coming in from online. Takalani?
Thank you. No, so far we don't have any question from the online platforms.
Okay, we have one question. Could you please indicate your name, the media house you're representing, and then put the question to the Minister?
Thank you so much. Am I audible? Hi, my name is Advocate Zanueta TCSare. I'm from Digitally Legal. We are an ICT digital laws consultancy. My first question, I think there aren't any questions on the floor, so I might just jump in and have 2. But the first question is, what has been done by the department to sensitize and to involve members of the disabled community in the entire process? So the first question. The second question is looking at the added functionalities of broadcasting and I guess the internet aspect of now television sets in South Africa, what has been done to create literacy around these functionalities and the cyber dangers that come with this migration? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. The other two questions. Is there any other question maybe from the house? And nothing yet from online, Tagalani? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I must also acknowledge the presence of Ms. Vuyo Bachi, the CEO of the Telecommunications Mobile Operators Association. Amongst us, I think they're the beneficiaries of the spectrum. I should have been warned to bring my lawyer so that I could then use legal advice on how I respond to the questions. The first issue, the questions that you referred to there, I like to deal with the second one that you dealt with, on literacy around the cyber dangers coming with the migration. There are no cyber dangers coming with migration, but there is a broadcasting commission that has been set up to look at how we mitigate about the dangers of television in general, the cyberbullying and all the other things that come through. And you raise an important question to say, what are we doing with the to make awareness on with the disabled community? And what is interesting and what is good about this is that your digital television sets now, they are very compliant with the disabled community. So that's why we encourage that people, instead of even fighting for set-top boxes, we must fight to buy the digital television sets in the country. That's why we've put guidelines to show South Africans which TV sets are digitally compliant, so that the disabled communities are not disadvantaged. Because at least on the digital television sets, you are able to choose the translation that you could do for those who are disabled with the various features that come up with that one. We are also hoping that we could migrate the country quicker, so that we could then also talk about the next generation of technology in digital in terms of broadcasting for television viewing, because majority of young people are no longer watching television on the box. They are watching, majority of people in any case, they are watching TV online. And that's why we're also working on the other part, and later this month, if not early next month, we'll publish work that we are doing to make sure that we could have data available to South African at affordable cost, and also our view that data has become a public good, and therefore there must be a commitment towards basic data in the country, and we're hoping that you'll make those contributions so that we can then pass that policy, because it will then advantage the disabled community in the main. But in terms of the current process, the legal requirement, the notice that will come through, it will come through in all official languages, and we are working. We wanted to publish it today, but part of the work is to make sure that it's also available in Braille, so that the members of the disabled community can be able to read. We are also working with the regulator, ICASA, on the public service announcement, and when the public service announcement is done, in particular for television, those who are deaf, they should be able to have that notice also on sign language, and thus they will then engage with the public broadcaster and the free-to-air broadcasters who will be required to carry the public service announcement for the 30th of September, to make sure that they cater in those announcements for the disabled communities. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and we hope the members of the media are going to work with us to ensure that this message reaches everybody. We are going to also request the National House of Traditional Leaders, National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leadership, to request their members who are traditional leaders to communicate the message of the 30th to the communities that they preside over, because the traditional leaders are going to also be beneficiaries of the spectrum, as we have their offices or where they operate connected in terms of the service obligations. But also we are going to engage SALGA. There are letters that are on their way to SALGA to request that councillors, in particular ward councillors and ward committees, they could also communicate the message across. But and what on our notice we are indicating that you could apply at a post office nearest you. You could also apply at through the www.stb registration.gov.za, And we are also engaging if there are possibility of adding other places where members of the public can go and get the forms and complete the forms so that we can collect them. But that will announce in due course when those arrangements have been finalized. Thank you. Have a lovely day.
Thank you so much, Honourable Minister. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, CEO. And that brings then our media briefing to its conclusion. And let's go ahead, carry forward the message. We're looking forward to the publication of the ultimate date for registration tomorrow. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a lovely evening.
There's no water today, we come today and there's no water. Now, then when I provision my own water, you say I'm not taking you serious. So I'll bring my own water.
No, we met.
The one is looking for you. The one is looking for you.
Did you see how
No, we're telling them we're still on. Powerful statement. We are not chickening out. It's a fashion. I want to give it to the that's why